Two. Okay? Take fucking two of this review. This has become a habit. Um, because I'm recording this review. Basically because the problem with society is that my dog wouldn't stop barking. So I was like, okay, I gotta fucking put her outside, and now she's in the kitchen. Anyway, so um, welcome to my movie review of Creepshow, which came out in the year of 1982 and was directed by the late great George A. Romero, who made Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Land of the Dead, Diary of the Dead, Survival of the Dead as well. I think it was, and another one. Yeah. And he also done that film Monkey Shines and the original Crazies. And he done this film. I think he done the sequel to this film. So yeah, I only watched this for the first time today, actually. Matthew Davis recommended this to me back in 2014. So that's insane. So basically what the plot of Creepshow is, you got this guy played by Tom Atkins, who is a father giving out to his kid, saying stuff like, "You can't be reading this smart. Oh, you always have a smart ass remark." Ugh. And the kid's all like, "No, Dad," and says all these kind of like funny things back to him, like, gets all cheeky and stuff with him. And basically, the kid is reading this comic book called Creepshow. It's kind of animated horror comic. And he's downstairs, like, giving out about his kid, which is really, really funny. Then he throws the comic out. Get an awesome intro with Creepshow. And essentially, we get a bunch of different stories. And there are a bunch of different horror stories. It's an anthology film. And yeah, that's really the plot. It's pretty straightforward. So I'm going to just talk about the stories, really. We'll start with the Leslie Nielsen one. I want to go in a different order of the story. So the plot of the Leslie Nielsen one is basically, there's a man played by Ted Danson. He's at a house, and then Leslie Nielsen comes up and he's like, oh, you're in trouble, whatever. And he's basically being an asshole to Ted Danson because he has kidnapped his girlfriend and stuff. He's like, "What did you do, you son of a bitch?" and all that. And he's just like, "Oh, I kidnapped her, or whatever. You're not going to be able to see her again." It's like, "No, what the hell?" So Leslie Nielsen plays this really sinister fucker, and he kidnaps Ted Danson, right? Buries him in the sand, and basically forces him to watch a TV screen of his girlfriend, who is in sand, also buried, and there's water going onto her face and stuff. And she's like, "No, no," and all that, and he's just being an evil bastard. Makes him watch it, and eventually he ends up dying. They end up dying, but then eventually they come back as zombies and try and haunt him, which is awesome. But I love that story because I never seen Leslie Nielsen really play a villain before. So it was like, oh shit, that's really cool. I never seen him and Ted Danson work together, so it was cool to see that. But like that scene, I love it. I love the scene where he goes into the house and they're just talking and he's being like really sinister towards him. And he's like, "Well, what did you do? What have you done with my wife? What have you done?" And all this. Like, "Oh, I just haven't done anything. If you want to see your wife again, you have to, you have to do this." And there's some great shots of them in the apartment, and then like, he's kind of being comedic, like, "Whoa," and all that. It's like, oh, it's like, "What do you want?" and all this. It's like, oh, we're gonna have to have a little chat. He's being really sinister, and I love that about that scene when they're in the apartment being sinister, and he's like, "Just show me where she is," and he brings him down to the beach and all that, and he goes, "Oh yeah, just she might be buried somewhere, or she might be somewhere here. You're gonna have to do this." It's like, "No, I'm not going with you at all. You're gonna want to go with me." And he pulls a gun on him I think at the apartment, goes, "Oh, you're gonna want to go with me." He's like, "I don't have to go anywhere." But he was like, "Oh no, you want to listen to me now, son." And I love how threatening, um, Leslie Nielsen is, and I like Ted Danson's acting. I think like he does a great job, as being like a concerned person for his girlfriend. Like it makes his character likable. Um, it's really fucking cool, And anyway, as they go down to the beach, he's like, "Oh shit, where's my girlfriend and stuff?" Um, and he's like, "You have to keep looking," or he says something anyway, and he runs off. He's like, "Oh no!" And then the way the music plays at that point, and he's like, "You're gonna have to do this. You're gonna have to dig a hole." And he's like, "No," and all that. And he pulls a gun out and runs after him. It's like, "Dig a hole." It's like, "No, I don't want to do that." And he's basically forced him to, I think, dig in his own grave on the beach. Gets into the fucking into the place, gets into the sand, and then like I love how he's like, "Just show me where she is. Let me go. Show me where she is." He's like, he's there buried in the sand and stuff, and he's just like, "Oh no!" And then Leslie Nielsen starts singing like demonically, and I really like the dark humor. Like he's shown kind of his funny side, but a tiny bit of his dramatic side because he's the villain. It was nice to see him like that. Yeah, I've got a corkscrew, Teddy. Where's the corkscrew, Teddy? Sorry, Friday 13th Part 4. Well, yeah, I love the music in that scene, and then he's there digging and monologuing and saying this, and then just before he gets in, he starts screaming, "Help! Help!" And then he starts going, "No, I can't. There's no point in screaming because I own the whole place." And he starts going, "Help! Help!" And you just see all these birds flying away because I own the whole place. And he goes, "I'm crazy." He says something really over the top. "I own the whole place," or something like that. But it's really awesome. Then he's like, it's pretty fucked up actually. He's like, gets a TV. He's like, "Oh, why don't we see what's on the station and stuff?" He gets a TV, puts it down. It's like, "Let the show begin. Let's see what's on," and all that. And he turns on the TV station. And it's the wife who's buried and the water, like around the water and all that. And he tells her, "Oh yeah, she's buried at another part of the beach and stuff," and like, he's like, "Oh my god, no, you son of a bitch." And I like that the TV was in black and white as well. And he's basically just fucking forcing them to watch, and it's disturbing, it's horrifying. I like, it's like, "Oh, the tides are gonna come in soon. The tides are gonna come in, and the water's there covering her." Um, you know, but like I think it's a really well, effectively done horror scene, and the music in that scene is great. It's suspenseful. It's great. It's effective. And then at first he doesn't even think it's real, and he's like, "Oh, this isn't real." It's like, "Oh, this is special effects. This has to be special effects or something." He's like, "No, it's not." It's like, this is fake," and he's like, "No, it's not. It's not fake because that right there is recording. That's live right now." She's at another part of the beach and he walks off, and like, you love to hate Leslie Nielsen in this scene, and he just done a great job with the acting. Both of them did. Like you buy Ted Danson's emotional performance, and you buy Leslie Nielsen as this horrific person, and it eventually leaves Ted Danson, and the woman ends up dying, and it's a pretty sad scene, and then he goes back, and you think, "Oh, is that the end of it?" No, he goes back, and then you get an amazing sequence with fucking amazing practical makeup as well, where you get the two couples kind of like rising out of the sand, and then they start going towards Leslie Nielsen. They knock at his door. He's at his home, and then they're kind of walking around like, "Oh," and they're kind of going, "Oh," and they're repeating, I think, something he said, or they're saying a phrase anyway. That's fucking awesome. Okay, there's a bunch of teenagers screaming outside. And they start repeating this phrase that's like, oh, what was it? It's like, "Oh, you left us there, bury us or something, and they start kind of like basically walking towards him and all that. And the fucking makeup is amazing. It's actually horrifying. Like they're there breaking in, and it's a very zombie-esque feeling sequence. And Leslie Nielsen is just there freaking out, like and they kill him. And then how it kind of cuts to the comic book panel, after the sequence is over, is awesome. We even have a sequence as well, another story, where Stephen King himself actually plays a character. He actually plays a guy who's just out. He's out one night, and this meteorite comes down. He's like, "Oh my god, I want to see what this meteorite is," and all that. It's like, "Oh, what is this?" and stuff. And he grabs it and he touches it. And it's like, "Oh, this is so cool." And then he goes home, watches TV, and then goes into like there's flashbacks of him going into a place, and then like this fucking old man is saying stuff to him, and it's like, oh, this is what this meteorite probably does or whatever. And I love that whole story as well, because I love just the atmosphere of it, and some of the quotes that Stephen King says, like, "Oh, this is great," and all that. "Oh, it's a meteorite," and he does this real goofy face. It's like quite a iconic shot of the film. He does a kind of goofy face, but it was interesting to see him in a full-on acting role. So obviously he's in Pet Cemetery, and he's in It Chapter 2 in a scene and a bunch of other stuff, but to actually see him acting in a full-on skit was pretty fucking cool. Although I don't like him as a person, but still, he actually done alright. And he's going in and he's like having these fantasies of selling the meteorite to people, and they're like, "Oh my god, you're doing a great job," and the way the dream sequences were done were great. And I just love the look and the aesthetic look of that scene at night, and even when he's touching the meteorite, it's just so cool to look at, And he's going home, he's having a beer, watching things, something's happening with the meteorite, and then eventually weird shit starts to happen. And you see scenes of him talking to other people, and then, lo and behold, all these fucking vines and shit start coming out. Like, oh my god, he's like, "Whoa, what's happening to me?" And he's looking in the mirror, and he's like, "Oh my god," and there's kind of all these leaves, and all this crazy shit starts happening to him. I was like, "Oh my god, what's happening?" As it's going on, he's getting more and more like that. He's like, "Oh my god," and I think he's trying to wash it off. He gets into the bath, he goes into different rooms, he's trying to get it off him, and it's getting more and more crazy. And then it gets all covered, and he's like, "Ugh," and he's there trying to drink, and he's trying to do all this other stuff when he's just covered in vines. And then eventually he says this monologue, gets a shot, or not a monologue, just a small little piece of dialogue, gets a shotgun, and then tries to shoot himself. And there's great practical effects, but how the practical effects were done with the vines is really good. I even thought he actually at one point looked a bit like Jim Carrey from How the Grinch Stole Christmas. But that was the second story in the film, Creepshow, and it's so well done. And I have to say, like, the first one I mentioned with Leslie Nielsen and all is really well shot. It looks aesthetically beautiful, all of it. George A. Romero's direction is amazing. The editing is just really tight in all of the stories, and effective and scary, and it's really Halloweeny. It's like the Stephen King one. Like the atmosphere at night, the kind of haunting kind of fucking vibe and stuff, and some of the shots and the kind of bluish vibe, and there's just shots of fog in it as well at points, which is amazing. But I also think it's funny. This is really a horror comedy because all of the stories have funny moments. Every one of them has funny moments. The one with Leslie Nielsen does, and the Stephen King one does. I love that he's like cross-eyed and it's like, "Oh yeah, he does all these goofy faces and shit." That'll probably be the fucking thumbnail, won't it? Yeah. But I love I was trying to think of the other story. I like the first one as well. First one is insane. It's really funny. Basically, this kind of snobbish family are sitting around, and there's a guy kind of talking to them, you know, and they're all kind of just talking about all this fucking shit, and the one's like, oh, it's Father's Day, oh, it's my father's birthday, oh, there's this woman, and she goes here, and just talking really. To be honest, I can't remember a lot of the dialogue. I know I just watched it, and I'm kind of like, trying to remember the dialogue. I don't really remember the dialogue, but I'll still talk about it. You got this kind of British couple, then these American people there as well. It's like, oh, what is that? And he's not, the American guy looks like Viggo Mortensen. Maybe it was him when he was younger. I don't think it was. No, it wasn't him. But it looks like, no, because 82. It's looks like the guy looks like a young Viggo Mortensen. He's just there talking to his girlfriend, and whatever set they chose, like some of the fucking locations in this movie are great. Like it's a really nice kind of house, and there's some great exterior shots of the house, and then inside the house as well. And I love that kind of the whole story of like, oh, it's Father's Day, and then you get these like flashbacks of they're just in there talking. There's many scenes where it cuts back to the family or whatever, and they're talking in this kind of like big expensive house. And there's so much style to it. There's so much style to all of these scenes. Like they look nice. They're beautiful to look at. Like it just has a lovely visual style. Like George A. Romero was so great at making his movies look aesthetically well. He's such a great style, and it just has that 80s feel. Creepshow just has that 80s feel to it, and I love it. I'm all for it, man. The practical effects still hold up, but anyway, sorry. But I do like those kind of dialogue scenes as well, because they're fun. And you get to a moment where you get a flashback of this guy on Father's Day. It's my birthday, it's my birthday, and all this stuff. Give me my cake, you bitch, and all this. Give me my cake, you bitch, and all that. And when she's a kid, it's like, no, daddy. It's like, I want my cake, and all that. He's like an abusive father, and you get a flashback of this woman picking up something, going, on Father's Day, going over, picking up something, and then fucking smacking the father over the head with it. And it's funny. And then she goes to visit the grave a couple of times, and then says this like monologue of like, oh, well, daddy, happy Father's Day. You were always awful, you bastard. And then she starts like repeating what he said, like, oh, you bitch, give me cake, you bitch, or whatever. Then he goes off, and you get the nighttime sequence and the thunder and lightning. And there's actually many scenes where throughout the whole film actually, where like near the end even, where they're showing the outside of a lab, and you got like the sky and the fucking electricity and stuff, and it's so 80s, and like it's raining, and it just has that kind of dark blue kind of look, and it's that great haunting Halloweeny atmosphere. Things are like thunder and lightning and stuff. But I love that. I love that. So that scene happens, and the father ends up basically rising from the grave, like and just coming out and going, "Here's my cake, you bitch," and it's so over the top, and it's dark comedy done well. It's horror comedy done well, which is another thing that George A. Romero really fucking was great at. Rest in peace. Because even Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead as well, and even parts of Night of the Living Dead had a lot of great comedy in them. You know what I mean? Like Night of the Living Dead, you've got "We're coming to get you, Barbara." Him like taunting his sister at the beginning. "Oh, they're coming for you, Barbara. They're gonna get you," and all this stuff. Although that movie is mostly serious. Then Dawn of the Dead, you got lines like, "We got this, man. We got this by the ass," And then, of course, Day of the Dead, you have Bub, who is just great, So he really, really succeeded at comedy. And there is aspects of the films, but the makeup and the practical effects on this fucking creature are amazing. Oh my god, it's so good. Like, he's walking, and and just the atmosphere around him is amazing, but it's also just an enjoyable scene on top of that. But the atmosphere around him is fucking great. So he's just there walking, and he goes, and they're there waiting at the window. Oh, what's happening and all that, and then eventually he busts in. Where's my cake, you bitch? And he fucking breaks a guy's fucking or a girl's neck, and then kills a few people, and it's awesome, and they all die at the end, like And the way he like fucking twists the neck and stuff, it's so fucking cool. It's such a good effect, and it's like not all of these stories have happy endings as well, which is something I thought was twisted, but it was done in like a dark humor way, like Evil Dead was, and it's really funny. But I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that yeah, I don't know. And I'm trying to remember if I remember all the stories now. Then you have I'm just trying to make sure. Yeah, so we have the Ted Danson one. We had that one. Um, like all of these stories are great. Like that. The opening one's brilliant. I like the Stephen King one more. Um, and then I love the one with Ted Danson. And then you have one of the best ones and one of the most original. This one I think was the longest. I want to say. Um, there's a story in the film where there's this guy and he has like this nagging wife. And I've definitely seen this guy before. He's one. When you get those kind of actors that like they're in everything, but you don't know what their name is. Um, like that guy that's in A Simple Plan, that's also in Office Space and Pineapple Express and fucking Talladega Nights. Like I think his name is Gary. Is it Gary? Gary? No, it's not Gary Coleman. Gary something anyway. He's in everything, and I'm like, what is that guy's name? You know what I mean? But anyway, um, yeah. So this story anyway, like, is there's a guy and his nagging wife, and they're all kind of at this party, and she's always just belittling it. Fuck me. Why is my dyslexia at me tonight? Fucking hell. I've only had one. I haven't even finished this. This is the first one. Man, belittling. Thank you, him. Um, she's like, oh, you're useless, you're awful, you're fucking awful. They're all talking to this person. Of course you don't get that. Of course you're awful. But I like the interaction. Hey, how are you doing? Oh, you're doing good. And she's like, oh, typical. You're just being awful and all that. And like, there's a group of these people at this kind of party, and they're walking around and they're just chatting to each other. And the dialogue is funny. And then like he keeps having these kind of like visualizations of like killing her. And like he pulls out a gun and just shoots her in the fucking head. And then like the practical effect, once again, brilliant. They all start clapping, and then he's like, cuts off. He's like, "Whoa, God, what are you doing, God?" You know what I mean? Which nowadays that kind of type of thing is done so much, but like this is the 80s. I don't know if it originated before this, but it feels fresh and original here. And then there's other moments where they're like arguing, and he like puts a fucking thing around her neck and tries to choke her, and then it goes off or whatever. But you get a couple of those kind of party scenes, and scenes of his wife being like, "Oh, you're useless," and then when they're at home, and like, "Oh, you're useless," and then even when he leaves her a note saying, "Oh, my friend needs my help," he's been getting with like college girls and stuff like that, and she's just there laughing at it like, "Oh my God," and every time like he kills her, like, "Oh, is this actually real?" And then it cuts to it not being real, like, fuck. But then you have another side of it where there's these other two guys that are like in this place, and they're kind of chatting to each other, and they're like, "Oh, let's go," and they're opening up this crate. It's like, "Oh, can you open it?" It's like, "Oh, yeah, let's do it. What's in that?" And all that. And this is like when some of the great horror aspects of this film happen. Like the horror aspects with the fucking creature coming up out of the grave and the other two creatures coming out of the graves is awesome. But this is awesome, right? Get these kind of like eyes shown, and it kind of foreshadows the movie Monkey Shines, which I believe came out after this. Um, but like they're looking, and he comes out, and he's like, oh, and he grabs him, and he's just there like trying to fucking make sure his arm isn't being grabbed and it's being bitten, and you see the blood, and it's like really like kind of greenish and all that. And eventually he gets pulled in, and the fucking blood is amazing, and the practical gore, and they're like, oh shit, and they grab him, and there's another moment where the guy gets killed, and he's like running away, and he's like, oh my god, the guy, it's like, and all. It's like, what's wrong, and then they go in, he's like freaking out, I don't know what to do. He's like, he got attacked, there's this weird ape thing there, and then he goes and tells the other guy, I'm gonna have to clean it up. And then like I love like the one shot where you see the guy's dead body and the guy's cleaning it up, and then he tricks his wife to come there because he's gonna try and kill her, and she's looking for him like, Tony, where are you, and all this, and then he's like, oh, I'm down here, and he's cleaning up the blood, and then he goes down, and then out of nowhere he goes down. It's like, what's happening? And then he tells her the story. I was like, oh my god, that's crazy and all that. But he grabs her like, here, come over here. It's like, what are you doing? It's like, oh, it's like what are you, before, she's like, what are you doing, Tony? Blah, 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 blah. It's like, what's going on and all this. And he's like, and then she's like, oh my god, that's crazy, telling the story about what happened and stuff. Where is he? And he tries to trick her to go into this place, and then he tries to push her down the stairs. Or not down the stairs, tries to push her into this place. He's like, ugh, ugh, ugh. And then she belittles him again, says, you're useless, you're shit in bed. When's the last time you got it up? And like, just being awful, to be honest. Like, just being like, oh, you're shit in bed, I can't remember the last time you got it up, and all this stuff. Why don't you, to be honest, actually, in a lot of ways, she kind of reminds me of the girlfriend that Sarah Silverman plays in School of Rock. But he's trying to push her, and at first I was like, what the fuck is he trying to do? But then you get the awesome shot of like, the fucking, the fucking gorilla coming up, their big gorilla monster thing, and fucking eating her, and you get a shot of her screaming, the comic panel, and then she gets eaten, the blood's everywhere, and he goes off, and he eats a few more people. That's awesome. Like the practical effects on that are awesome. And the creature's awesome. Like the fucking the creature itself is amazing. Like whenever he comes out and it's like this fucking weird gorilla with like weird fucking teeth, like monster gorilla. It looks fucking amazing. It is so fucking cool. In that scene, and even with the way the fucking it bites and the blood and the gore goes everywhere, it's so cool. Horrifying. But I also love how in the film, whenever certain deaths happen, it's kind of like a comic book panel, like it moves, like a scene transition will move from one place to another, or they'll show a body kind of lying down covered in blood, and it's like in a little kind of circular kind of thing, and how every scene starts and ends, how every story starts is like it will show a comic book panel, and it will show like the lines, and then it will kind of like zoom into real people, and it will end with what they said, and it'll be a comic book panel, and it will zoom out. And it does that throughout the film, but there's a moment where it shows the voodoo doll thing, and you're like, that wasn't about a voodoo doll. Is that what the next story is about? And it shows kind of the panels, and then like it shows these really cool animated sequences where you got this monster like like the one that's on the cover, and it goes, and all these cool, like really great animated things. I just want to look up something actually, just to make sure, like, okay, I just want to make sure I'm. Oh fuck. Okay, sorry. I want to pause this for a sec. Yeah, so I just wanted to look up because I want to make sure I'm getting this right. Oh my god. It was Ed Harris in the scene. Oh my fucking god, dude. I didn't fucking notice that. I was like, because it popped up Ed Harris at the beginning. Yeah, the guy I thought looked like Viggo Mortensen was actually Ed Harris. He's just young in the movie. He was great in the movie. He was just young. When he's talking to his wife. But I'm just trying to think that I think I do believe that yeah, Stephen King obviously wrote it, right? And obviously George A. R. Martin directed it. I got that right. I just wanna make sure that I wanna see who done the animation sequences. That's the who did because I feel like I know who it is. Okay. Oh, okay. So Phil Wilson, Greg. Okay, I thought it might have been Don Bluth. Um. Okay, so I didn't know who it was. Okay. Yeah, but the animation sequences are done great. From the scene transition, showing the monsters, and like even showing live action into animation transition is impressive. And the animation it still ages well. It holds up so well. And as I said, the comic book panels and even the intro when the Creepshow magazine or the comic is thrown out, and you get into the animation sequence and it shows the fucking comic, and then you get the Creepshow title and all that. It's just really, really, really well done, that animation sequence. So yeah, the dialogue is great. The comedic dialogue is great. The horror aspects are brilliant, and you know, done in a really dark comedy way. Like as I said, Leslie Nielsen's death when they're trying to grab him, it's fucking, or they're like, come here, it's amazing. I love the opening to the film as well, with Tom Atkins giving out to his kid like, "How dare you do this? You can't be reading this." And I didn't even realize it was his voice until he showed up. It's like, "This is awful," and he's like, "Come on, go easy on him." No, I'm not gonna go easy on him, And he goes upstairs. Also, love the location of the house and stuff. And he's like, "You're gonna answer me back," and he answers him back and says, "You can't read these awful comics," and then he just throws it out. And then he's downstairs like, "It's awful. You little bastard can't fucking read those comics. They're awful," and all that. He's got another thing coming to him that he has a beer. Yeah. And then we have the last story. The last story is a great one. Where you got this guy, he was an asshole, and he's basically just being like, he's got this bug problem, and he's like just being a fucking dick, like, "Oh, you're an asshole," just being sarcastic and like, "Oh, this is fucking crazy." It's also probably the one with the most F bombs. He goes, "Oh, this is fucking crazy," and he's there, and there's cockroaches kind of coming near him, and he's like smashing them. He's like, "Oh, get away from me," and all that. We got a bug problem, and he's like putting things in this kind of thing, and he's ringing people. And then there's a woman that's ringing him, and he's just being an asshole to her. He's like, "Oh, my husband's dead because of you. My husband's dead," and he's just there like this. "Oh, that's awful. Too bad." He's like, "Oh, wait till someone hears about this." Well, he can't call me about it, can he? Just being a fucking dick. But every time something's happening, there's like a cockroach coming, and then there's a black guy that comes who's like really over, like really funny. He's like really over the top, and he's like, "Hello, let me in. You got a bug problem again," and it's showing like him talking through the keyhole. That was really funny, but then he starts being all racist towards him. It's the black guy, which is not cool, but it's just to show how much of a fucking asshole this character is. And then eventually, you know, bugs start kind of running around. He's like fucking squishing all of them, and then they all come on him, and they're like coming from every fucking center, and there's more and more of them coming, and they're just going all over him, and he dies. He gets killed, which is awesome. Like a gazillion fucking bugs everywhere, and comic panel ends, and then you get the little epilogue with Tom Savini has a cameo as a garbage man. Like, "What is this? This is crazy." Yeah, and he's like, "What? Can you hear me?" He's like, "What? Can you hear me?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I can." And he's got like this fucking got the comic. He's looking through it like, "Oh, that's crazy. It's a voodoo doll. What's that one or whatever?" And he throws it out, and you're thinking, I was there thinking, okay, this film, um, obviously the horror stories are fake that people just listen to. No, because the end kind of shows that, oh no, horror stories exist in the real world as well. Um, Tom Atkins is all proud of himself, like, oh, I'm so glad I grounded him. And then the kid's up in his room with a voodoo doll of his father, and he's just like, I'm gonna show him and all this for taking my comics away. And he stabs him. He's like, oh, he's like, what's wrong? And he just starts stabbing him. And then you get awesome end credit scenes. And guys, this movie's awesome. It's amazing. It's so funny. The horror in it is great. The practical effects are great. Um, the acting is great. The stories are different and creative. Dialogue is awesome. It's well directed. I give it a 10 out of 10. So that was my review of Creepshow. Bye.